Hey everyone, happy Monday and welcome into Attacking Third, brought to you by CarMax, the way car buying should be. Alongside Darian Jenkins and Aaron West, I am Lisa Carlin. We have a lot to get through today. Some news, Canada's Olympic roster has dropped. We're going to recap the NWSL weekend ahead. There's a lot to get through, but it's Monday. I want to hear, how was your weekend, Aaron?
It was good. It was good. The kids are full of energy all the time, so my weekends are spent chasing children around. But
and hanging up art.
And hanging up art. Yeah, I have been made fun of for this, but I bought frames for my daughter's art, and I'm going to be hanging that up. So.
Well, proud dad. That. For sure, proud dad.
Hashtag
big
daddy.
dad moment.
So this is a little bit of a reprieve being here. A little bit less chaotic.
Work is easier for me.
Well, we're happy to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
Are you coming to me?
Yeah, how was your weekend?
It was all NWSL. It was all
good.
soccer, but good. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Good, I like that.
How was yours?
It was great, actually. I spent it around Stanford hanging out, and I had the pleasure of meeting an Attacking Third fan at a beer garden this weekend. So shout out to Rachel. It was a pleasure to meet you this weekend. Thanks for watching and listening.
Did you take a picture with her?
I did.
Did you sign anything?
Not a fan of me, a fan of Attacking Third and women's soccer. It was great. No. Of course not. But it was really cool. I got to ask her, like, hey, what are your thoughts on the U.S. Olympic roster and fun things? I'm tired of hearing you guys and your thoughts and everything.
You hear us all the time.
I wanted to hear from fans of the teams and of sports what they think is going to happen at the Olympics. She was optimistic about the U.S. roster.
Was she in agreement with the Alex Morgan decision?
She said yes. It's sad. She liked her as a player, but it was time.
She's an informed supporter.
Yeah, she is informed. She knew a lot. I was very impressed. So shout out to Rachel. Thanks for saying hi, and thanks for watching. Tell a friend. More Olympic rosters have come out, though. Canada has named their 18-player roster for the 2024 Paris Olympics. The reigning gold medalists are headed to Paris with 13 of the 18 players that won gold in Tokyo in 2022. Some of the biggest names: goalkeeper Kaylin Sheridan, defender Kadisha Buchanan, Ashley Lawrence, midfielders Jessie Fleming, Quinn, Janine Becky, Jordan Heitma, and Adriana Leon, just rounding out some of the players. 4 of them making their Olympic debut. A number of young players on this roster, including Jade Rose, who was the 2023 Canada Soccer Young Player of the Year. Darian, we just got this news this morning, but when you look at the 18 players, who is your biggest surprise on this roster?
Biggest surprise for sure, Gabby Carl. I thought she's had a great year with Canada, and during the W Gold Cup, she had a really good showing. I thought she was very effective. She was important in their attack. She was up and down the width of the pitch, combining well, scoring goals, setting her teammates up for success. So this is a really big shock to me. I also think we've seen her perform well for club, which is a huge factor in who makes these rosters, as we've seen. So I'm pretty surprised she's left as an alternate. She would have been kind of a for sure pick for me if we were picking Canada's rosters.
Who would you have her replace on this roster?
Gotta ask me this. I would probably say Sydney Collins. I think just based on how they perform for club, who gets more minutes for club, I think who they're playing with is important. And Gabby Carl plays for Washington Spirit. This is a tough team to get minutes with and do really well with. And I think we've seen her grow as a player. So she would have been on my 18, but I'm glad she's going as an alternate.
Yeah, some of the other alternates listed are Lyciane Prue, a goalkeeper, Shalina Zadorsky, and Deanne Rose. This is an opportunity, Aaron, for Canada to reclaim their title. They are reigning gold medalists at the Olympics. How do you think Canada's going to fare this summer in Paris?
I think it's going to be a tough go for them. I think that reclaiming that gold is a really far step for them. I think what they're looking for is just kind of get back on track, get a couple positive results, get the program back moving in the right direction, and get a little bit of optimism around this entire national team program.
Canada will be in Group A, competing at the Paris 2024 Olympics along with France, Colombia, and New Zealand.
It's a tough group.
It's a really tough group. And you have a massive target on your back as the last Olympic team to win gold. So I don't know if they repeat.
Yeah,
honestly.
I don't know if they make it out of the group.
Oh,
I
hot take.
Legitimately see them not making. This Colombia team, I think, has a lot of talent. This New Zealand team they're getting a little bit older, but I think they can spring a surprise or two. And France is France.
Yeah,
I think we have them nailed. Shout out to Carla. I think we all probably would have France as the number one in this group.
Yeah.
But I think even group play is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, none of those teams are sleepers. Even New Zealand, coming off of a pretty impressive World Cup where they hosted this past summer, they have a chip on their shoulder, too, to get out of the group and to prove themselves. We'll see. Countdown to Paris 2024 is absolutely on. It is on. In other news, in NWSL, just halfway through the season, the Utah Royals have announced on Sunday that they have parted ways with their first-year head coach, Amy Rodriguez. Currently, Utah is in last place, and they have been for 8 straight weeks in the NWSL. Just 2 wins, 11 losses, and 2 draws. Additionally, the Royals have announced that goalkeeper coach Maurice Bard-Martel and the team president Michelle Heinklich have been released by the club. Jimmy Coonrotz will serve as the team's interim head coach. He was announced as an assistant coach at the start of June. Aaron, when this news dropped over the weekend, after Utah's 0-0 draw with Portland Thorns, what was your reaction to the news?
Disappointment on behalf of Amy Rodriguez, I think, because she was put in an incredibly difficult position. I think overall this Utah Royals franchise is kind of in a little bit of lost water. They're kind of rudderless from top to bottom. I think she was put in a tough position when she was first hired, Amy Rodriguez. She had only ever been, I think, a second or third assistant at USC. And she's given the reins of a head coaching job without ever having been a head coach before in a franchise where they're brand new. They're already going to struggle from the start. And then when they finally get a positive result, then she's sacked. It just all around, and then you see the reorganization of the front room staff. It just feels like they don't really know what they're doing, and it all has fallen right now on Amy Rodriguez's shoulders, and she's going to bear the brunt of it right now. But I really feel for the players because they're in a situation where they have no leader. The franchise itself seems kind of lost in the water, and they've got to go out there and fight and battle every single match without a real sense of where they're going.
But how much direction did Utah have prior to this, right? Does it change them now?
I don't think they had much before. Again, I think they were given a head coach who didn't have much experience, and then she wasn't given the resources and the support around her to then do a good job, and then that all trickles down to players who just are lost as well. So it's just a terrible situation all around.
There's no way that Amy Rodriguez was set up to succeed with this club. As an expansion side, she was brought in as a first-year head coach, having to build an entire club from the ground up. That includes coaching staff, training staff, the players, roster, who she's going to build around. That is an impossible job. Darian, she lasted until week 15. Aaron mentioned the players. As a player on this roster, what are you thinking now that your head coach has been sacked, your goalkeeper coach, and your president? Is this a silver lining, a turn of the leaf?
Well, one, I feel for A-Rod because you're right. I don't think she was set up to succeed at all. God, that's a tongue twister. Set up to succeed in any way. But if I were on this team, looking at the record for Utah, the lack of identity they have on the pitch, admitted lack of identity from their head coach's mouth, I would be sad for Amy, but honestly very happy. I think I would treat the first half of the season as that's our preseason. Now we're familiar with each other. We know each other's tendencies. We know how we work. We know each other's strengths. Let's start playing to that. Let's reset. We've got an Olympic break coming up. We have a new coach coming in, or this interim coach. Let's work with them, and let's actually try to build and create an identity finally. I think we've spent far too many weeks wondering what Utah's identity actually is. It's been too long. Yeah. Even if it's we sit in a low block, we look to counter. There's nothing.
So it's been too long, meaning the team hasn't had an identity through the first 15 weeks of play. Why now?
I think they wanted to. No, not at all. I think with their facility opening up today. Today's Monday. They have a new facility that opened up today that's state of the art. When you have, we talked about this before, but when you have a team that has everything set up for you to succeed, you have medical, you have the facility, you have the weight room, the film room, great fields. A lot of teams don't have that. And that can be the reason why, hey, we don't have the proper resources to be the team we actually can be. Utah does, and they've been having that. RSL has a great setup that Utah's been a part of. So now that they finally have their own facility and they're still not getting these results, it's time for change. And I think they wanted to wait until halfway through the season, give Amy a shot, give the people that they hired a shot, and nothing's changed. We haven't seen anything change besides their last game against Portland this weekend.
How does this make the club more desirable for players to come?
I think it shows that, hey, if a coach isn't producing, we're going to make changes. We're finally seeing that become a theme in the NWSL. And yes, I'm sad these people get fired and you have to uproot your lives, but it's part of the job. It's a business. So if I'm a player and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, they're professional. They're not playing around. They want us to be good. They want us to succeed. And then for your personal playing career, it sucks to be on a team that's not doing well. So knowing that, okay, we're going to be able to reset. Hopefully this new coach likes the assets I bring to the field. Let's go.
And one quick point, I think we've seen the standards raised around this league so much that to see this happen and to kind of see the ineptitude that Utah has shown is an anomaly now. Around the league, we've seen improvement in investment, players being brought in, coaching staffs, training facilities, stadiums, and this is the anomaly to have this sort of inability to improve and work with the resources that they have.
It's not the only coaching shakeup that the NWSL has seen this year. Actually, Amy Rodriguez becomes the third coach to depart their head coaching position. Sandra Herrera is joining us next to chat about all these shakeups across the league. Don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. We now welcome in our good friend Sandra Herrera to join us on the show today. Hey Sandra, good morning.
Hello, good morning. How's it going?
It is going well. We hear you have some news for us.
Sandra Bomb!
The rumor mill's been churning a little bit. Canadian international midfielder Julia Grosso announced that she was leaving Juventus, and there's been a lot of talk that she could join us stateside. What do you know?
I can't confirm it. Essentially, sources states that have confirmed to CBS Sports that Julia Grosso will eventually make her way over to NWSL, and Chicago is going to be the landing spot for her. The Red Stars have picked up the midfielder, and I think it's a really good pickup and really good for all parties involved. I think this is a player that was on multiple teams' radar. She was linked to Real Madrid at one point and maybe was going to stay in Europe. But sources have confirmed and stated that the lure of NWSL getting a little bit closer to home and joining up with a project like the Red Stars was something that were kind of the final deal sealers for this player to make her way to NWSL.
All right, Sandra, take your reporter hat off real quick. As a Chicagoan, are you happy about this signing?
Oh, man, are you kidding? I'm thrilled. Look. This is a 23-year-old player with an incredibly high ceiling, former Texas Longhorn, took her talents to Europe, went to Juventus and achieved a lot of things. I think is walking away with a handful of titles with the team and is coming off of a good performance with them. She had to deal with, unfortunately, some lingering injury, but has definitely made an impact for them. And I think when it comes to Chicago, as far as this sort of year zero or year one of new ownership, they want to continue to build a roster. They obviously have Mel Swanson is part of the center of that as a face of a franchise with a very, very long deal, but it's about building around that and who you can get into this club and help make sure that you have a very good roster to compete from player 1 all the way to player 20, depending on the game day. So I think this is the player that they want to get in the mix as soon as they can. There's an Olympics I heard happening this summer, and the transfer window isn't opening up till August, so it might be some time. But as far as what she could bring to this team, it's going to be massive. You got a player that can not only score some goals, but can create as well. So very excited to see what the dynamic can look like between Swanson and Grosso.
Sandra, another big change over the weekend that we just spoke at length about was A-Rod being fired from Utah. Can you give us your take on this big change and what this means for the Royals the remainder of the season?
Yeah, I think it's evident that they maybe wanted to go in a different direction. The interim head coach, the former assistant, was perhaps maybe giving a little bit more than what the Royals were perhaps looking for. But I think it's discouraging also in a lot of ways. I think there was a lot of excitement on Amy Rodriguez's arrival or return really to NWSL, but in a coaching aspect, I think it raises a lot of questions about former players and how they are returning to different roles. I think something that's very unique about what we're all kind of referring to as this current modern era of women's football globally is specifically with NWSL, this second year of this new decade that we're all kind of living in, is that we're seeing more of this. We're looking at former players getting into roles post-playing career, whether that's at the executive level or on the sidelines in coaching. So I think it's raising some, not so much red flags, but there are concerns, I think, in terms of some of the terminations that we've seen and folks wondering how players are, former players even, being supported in their post-playing career. So I think this was a former player that they put into a head coaching position after having a brief stint with USC as an assistant. And maybe there's some question marks around, what was in place to make sure that not only Utah Royals players were able to succeed, but also the coaching staff with this expansion side. So obviously, when you're losing, you're not getting results, the hottest seat in the room is going to be the head coach. To do it a couple weeks after the midway point, I think is also very interesting. I think you maybe have to ask questions of what they're looking to achieve moving forward after making this move, because it's not just Rodriguez. There's been some restructuring within the organization in general. So what's that going to mean for them moving forward? How are the players going to sort of react down the stretch for the remainder of this season?
Now, Sandra, you actually kind of asked my question in your answer. This Utah Royals franchise, obviously we've seen Amy Rodriguez get the sack, but they've undergone a big reorganization. Where do you think they go from here, and how do they move forward to push this organization into contention?
Yeah, you're going to look, they have a little bit of time left, I think, to show it on the pitch in terms of players who are performing, how they're putting together this kind of gritty performance. They're coming off of a scoreless draw against the Thorns. It was an excellent response to getting shut out 6-0 just the week before. So I think for players, their focus is going to be there. I think as far as front offices, you're already looking ahead. You need to start that, what we always hear, the phrasing of global candidate search for the next head coach. They absolutely need to start that yesterday or whenever they decided to have that conversation with Amy Rodriguez. Are they going to give a little bit of leeway to see what their interim coach can provide? And will they ultimately say there's enough here on a resume to just sort of go with interim head coach? I don't know if that's necessarily the right move. I think if you're an expansion franchise kind of making your way back into the league, you want to continue to make those kind of big hires, those big name hires. You want to have the lure to your project, because this is still year one for Utah. So they absolutely need to get this right in order to continue to build.
It's a bit of an uphill battle for Utah Royals now, considering where they are in the standings, and now that they have this reshuffling of front office members, including the head coach. And after we talk about the club, I want to talk about Amy Rodriguez specifically as a coach. This was her first year as a head coach, her first position as a head coach. How does this change her career, and what do you expect next from her?
I think folks might look at it a little two-sided. They might say, hey, it didn't go well in Utah. That's tough for the head coach. But on the other side of that, this is someone who's now got about 6 months or so, at least half a year of NWSL head coaching experience under her belt to go along with her time at the collegiate level. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe she gets snatched up back at the collegiate level. If that's something that she wants to return to. I think it really all depends. It also, I think, depends on the landscape of NWSL. Are there openings for perhaps maybe first assistant or general assistant coaches across the league? And is this a candidate that you want to get in a room and have an interview with to see what she could provide for this team, for our team? I think this is a crucial time for a lot of teams at this moment, and maybe they're looking for a little bit of an X factor. And sometimes maybe that doesn't look like a player on the pitch. Sometimes maybe that comes in the way of a coaching addition.
Sandra, San Diego obviously fired Casey Stoney, and we didn't see them kind of have that uplift that we've seen other teams have after they let their manager go. We saw it with Portland, with Rob Gale coming in. They look like a completely different team. What do you think San Diego's thinking is next? Did they make the right decision by firing Casey Stoney, or did they jump the gun in that?
I don't think they made the right decision in firing Casey Stoney, but I'm just one person in an echo chamber that maybe is kind of repeating a little similar sentiment. I think you have to take a look at this most recent game, a 3-0 loss against the Red Stars, a performance that the Wave are going to look at and say, hey, we've never really found ourselves, on the wrong side of sort of a blowout loss. And now we just fired our coach. So I think when you look for that team response and then you don't see it, I think it raises more concerns or it raises more questions about the decision making and the direction of the club. Similarly to Utah, though, I think for San Diego Wave, they're going to be in a similar boat. They absolutely are going to want to knock out of the park their next potential coaching candidate. I don't think it's going to be with Buckle. I think they're going to have to take a look and see and get another big name in the mix to go ahead and make sure that San Diego continues to build on the legacy, really, that Casey Stoney helped build there.
I know we saw a message from Casey Stoney kind of just talking about her time at San Diego and putting a bow on it. She is a very, very good manager who is available. Whether or not she wants to go right back into another job, that's a different question. Adrian Gonzalez at Washington Spirit, who was the acting coach while Giraldez was on his way in. He's another name. These are a couple kind of big names in NWSL, and there's a couple coaching spots open. Do you think either of those two land back in the league relatively soon?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Look, and that's if Casey Stoney or even Gonzalez to this extent don't have opportunities outside of NWSL. I think taking a look at what they built in their respective franchises, the opportunity is going to be there. There will be teams who are interested and who come calling and who come knocking. Now, whether or not Stoney stays in NWSL, I think is going to be, depending on where other clubs kind of find themselves at the moment in terms of asking questions of themselves and their head coaching staff positions. Is there going to be a spot for Stoney in this league moving forward? And also, does she want to stay here? I think all those things kind of have to line up at this moment.
Sandra, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Have a great day.
Have a good one,
Sandra.
Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more Attacking Third coming your way. Anita Jones joins us next to talk women's footy across the pond. Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. We are so pleased to be joined now by CBS Sports English football correspondent Anita Jones. Anita, welcome into the show. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm not sure if I feel so proud, talking about English after yesterday. Maybe if the Lionesses had been playing, I'd feel a bit prouder. But I guess, I don't know. We'll leave it to one side anyway.
You live to see another day for sure in the Euros. But let's talk some women's footy right now, because in England, the Reading women's team has declared that they are no longer going to play in the Barclays Women's Championship. Break it all down for us. What happened?
Yeah, so yesterday was quite a sour day, if I can describe it like that, in women's football. Reading has been a team that has produced some of the Lionesses. You think of the likes of Mary Earps passing through there, Fran Kirby, someone else who's really respected in the women's game, also Farah. The fact that they're in this position where they were in the second tier of women's football, now dropping to the fifth, is just so staggering. We're talking about a team that was competing in the top flight of the women's game just a couple of seasons ago. And how this has come about is really an assessment of the club and feeling that they won't get a financial return on continuing to run the women's team for the next 5 years. And given the strides that we've taken in women's football, in particular, this side of the pond in the WSL and the Championship becoming fully fledged professional leagues, this is just so shocking. But it's got to be mentioned that the situation with the women's team is probably a reflection of how Reading is being run as a whole by Chinese businessman Dai Young. They are going through some tough times, so it's not so much of a surprise. And I guess the fact that when they dropped down to the second tier last season and became a part-time club, you may have felt this was on the cards. And so, yeah, really unfortunate, like I said, a club that's had some stars go through there to be in this position.
Nita, incredibly unfortunate, and that's not only the only unfortunate news coming out of England, because Man United are also going through something. I mean, so many players aren't returning. Zellum, Earps, Paris, Lucia Garcia. What's your take on what's happening with United right now?
Yeah, I'm here to just talk about all the bad news in the women's football game at the moment. I started off on a high saying if we were talking about the Lionesses, I'd be much happier. But yeah, I guess this is a reflection of the challenges that are still in the women's game. We're all happy with some of the strides that have happened in recent years, but there are real challenges that women's footballers and also the infrastructure around it are still having to deal with. And in terms of Manchester United, it comes off the back of a recent interview that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the minority stakeholder who established or became the minority stakeholder in February, made some comments saying that the focus had been on the first team, and by first team he meant men's team. And so that, of course, was rather disappointing to some of the Manchester United fan base, and I guess women's football fans as a whole. And when asked had there been any thought about the women's team, essentially the response was TBC, that they hadn't had time to focus on that the focus had been on the men's team. And what his team had been in there for 6 years. He's got the likes of Dan Ashworth coming in from Newcastle, Omar Barella from Manchester City, who are real key people in helping the women's teams of those respective teams establishing themselves and doing well. So it is shocking that not only he said that, but the fact that that's happened. And then to add to it, we learnt that the women's team, Manchester United's women's team, that had this incredible training facility, £10 million spent on it, are being moved from there next season to portable setups for the men's team to move in there whilst their facilities are being worked on. So it's not a good time at the moment when you look at the state of Manchester United women's team.
Yeah, and one of these high-profile exits is Mary Earps, the goalkeeper who will be moving on to PSG. And in her exit statement, she kind of had a little bit of a shot at what maybe Jim Ratcliffe at the running of the club. Where does Manchester United women go from here? Where do they go from here? We know we've talked ad nauseum throughout the season about the problems with the club overall, especially on the men's side. Where do they go on the women's side from here?
Yeah, literally, whilst the show has been on, it was confirmed that Mary Earps is going to PSG. She'll be playing in Champions League football, which is incredible for her as a player, given what she's achieved on the national stage. It's really interesting when you look at Manchester United's trajectory, and I guess also some parallels with Reading, because what they only had fully fledged status in 2018, or having this women's team, and to have had the progress they had, in particular with the likes of Casey Stoney coming in almost like an Emma Hayes for Chelsea, pushing and fighting for all of these things. This feels like a step backwards, and to lose some of the key players, like you said, it is quite concerning. And yeah, her statement is really open to interpretation, saying that her goals and ambitions don't really align with the direction that the club's going in. And given that the women's team are being moved from their established training facility, something that was seen as this great stride forward, to portable cabins to I guess help the men's team have more of a structure and a training base, really does question the priorities, and also the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe let on that they hadn't even thought about the women's team yet. It's almost suggesting or questioning whether it's an afterthought at this stage.
Anita, it definitely feels like an afterthought, in my opinion. But what does this really say about the state of football for women's football in England?
I mean, I guess there's always been this divide between the teams that are doing so well and the teams that are yet to catch up. Because when Manchester United started making these strides, like I mentioned under Casey Stoney, you thought that they were in there around the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City. And we just go back to last season, where Arsenal filled the Emirates on more than one occasion. I was lucky to be there for a game, in December for CBS when they played Chelsea. And so I guess there's just this disparity in the women's game, and it needs to be levelled up. And with a team like Manchester United, which for many is the biggest team in world football, club football, you'd hope that that attitude would change. And like I said, with the likes of some key players coming in, like Omar Barada from Manchester City or Dan Ashworth from Newcastle, this approach to the team will change very quickly.
Anita, thank you so much. We will have you back to talk about something positive at some point. I promise you. I promise you.
I hope so.
Thank you. As always, your insight is invaluable. Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more Attacking Third for you. We are heading back stateside, talking NWSL and recapping the weekend. Welcome back to Attacking Third, brought to you by CarMax, the way car buying should be. Take a look at the NWSL weekend results for Matchday 15. Kansas City Current remain unbeaten with a 2-0 win over Houston Dash. Chicago Red Stars put away 3 over San Diego. Bay FC gets a 1-0 win over Racing Louisville. North Carolina Courage, they pick up their first road win of the season, 1-0 win over Washington Spirit. Utah and Portland draw 0-0. Gotham and Seattle also draw, and the weekend closes out with Orlando Pride getting a 3-0 win over Angel City. Let's dive into some of these matches, and we have to start with the Kansas City Current. A 2-0 win over Houston at CPKC Stadium. Temwa Chawinga with a brace 3 minutes apart to help Kansas City break their league record for consecutive games without a loss. 17 matches for Kansas City Current. That dates back to October 7th of 2023. Darian, when we look at this Kansas City side and this match for them, the first goal for Chawinga didn't come until the 77th minute. What happened ultimately for Kansas City to break through in this match?
Tarciane had a bit of a rough spell, I would say, and Temwa Chawinga to me is one of those players that can capitalize on any mistake in a back line. Anything that she can seek out, she's going to. She's going to punish you for it. And then her finishing ability is top tier. Her decision making is top tier. So Tarciane had a rough game. Houston was doing well up until that point, and then I feel once that Temwa Chawinga put away the first one, the second one was just inevitable. But it sucks for Houston because it was a decent match for them. Yeah. They were holding on just until that point. But, I mean, Temwa Chawinga is one of those players we've been talking about all year that is just, how do you even stop her? You cannot make a mistake. So, I mean, shout out to Kansas City because they're breaking records and crushing it this season. But tough day for Tarciane. You can tell she's still young in the league.
Yeah, it's on the one side, it's terrifying to watch Chawinga because it takes one instant, a misplaced pass, a loose ball, and she is in so quickly, and she is lethal in front of goal. And on the other side of that, you see a young defender, Tarciane, we've talked about her. She's got a really, really high ceiling, but she can be loose on the ball. Mm-hmm. And any mistake like that is what happens when you're a professional at this level, especially playing against a world-class attacker like Chawinga. One mistake, it's a goal. Another mistake, it's a goal. It's literally 2 mistakes and they're in.
It's almost like shame on your fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on
you won't fool me again.
But for Tarciane, though, we've also seen other veterans in the league, other veteran defenders, especially this weekend, that also got punished for small mistakes. And I think this is a big credit to how good the league has gotten with the forwards they're bringing in, how they're developing attackers very, very quickly. And it's not just an athletic league anymore. It's a technical, tactical, proficient league in front of goal, and so you have to be on as a defender. Well, I was never a defender. You were a defender.
Yeah, we know you never defended.
You have to be on the entire game. As a forward, exactly. You can check out. You're not involved in a lot. You don't have to be in the perfect positioning constantly.
Concentration is
defensively in this league, you really have to, and we're seeing teams get punished for it.
Especially the way Houston and Fran Alonso want to play. They want to build out of the back, and having only 3 center backs, it is risky. And as a defender, you can feel the attacker running at you and closing you down, whether it's the footsteps or the breathing. And with Temwa Chawinga on your heels after she sniffed you out for
just
one,
fall down.
It's terrifying. It is terrifying. Before Chawinga ultimately got her brace in this match, we did have our first River Ball of the year. Shawinga had a shot that went out of CPKC Stadium and landed in the Missouri River because this brand new stadium is built right on the river. It was a lot of hoopla for the game to see this happen. I mean, everyone was talking about this River Ball.
It's really funny to me that this blew up over the weekend.
Like, it means she missed the goal, right?
Yeah, I don't really get it. It's so funny, but it's more funny to me that it's become such a thing.
I think because it took so long, right? It took until week 15 ultimately for a ball to go in there. But hello, these are professional athletes. They should be hitting the frame. Ultimately. Kansas City, they pick up the win. They stay undefeated and at the top of the standings. Another team right on their heels consistently. Orlando Pride, they pick up a huge 3-0 win over Angel City. Adriana getting a brace in this match. Ultimately, Barbara Banda in stoppage time at the end of this game, she gets the third goal to put the cherry on top. Darian, when you look at this Orlando side, so much of the conversation has been about Barbara Banda and why they are unstoppable. But this team from front to back has been consistent. Why?
They look like they're fighting for each other. It seems everybody is bought into the game plan, whether it's working in the moment or it's not, they ride with each other. And we're finally seeing that. And yes, we talk about Banda extensively, but Marta is having such a resurgence on the pitch. I mean, that's a crazy statement to say that she's having a resurgence because she's never not had a good year, but I think we're seeing her back to really enjoying it. She's having fun. I think we see players around her that she connects with really well, whether that's Banda, Adriana, Ali Watt, Julie Doyle, Summer Yates, whoever is up there, they look dangerous. They look like they're going to score. They look like they're hungry to score. It's just a matter of time. And to see Marta just in form and you think she's going left, she's going right to Adriana, and Adriana can't give her any sort of space because we ball. I'll shoot from here. She'll shoot outside the 18, and it's an upper 90 goal. This team is just unstoppable front to back, and it's fun to see them just gelling together at the right time, and it doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah. I think what you said is so key. From front to back, they are a complete team. They defend so well. They're so well organized. I think Emily Madrill has had a really, really good season. I don't know if you can necessarily call her underrated because I think a lot of people recognize her quality.
She finally got the call-up.
Yeah, finally got herself a call-up. But they're really well organized. They defend well. They break well. They can play. They're fine out of possession. They can play. They're fine to have the ball. They have so many different attacking threats. Obviously, we talk ad nauseum about Barbara Banda, but this team is full of attacking threat. And they're just a very, very complete team that fights for each other, and that recipe, that combination is making for a top of the table team.
Top of the table teams. Kansas City and Orlando, they're tied at 35 points. Kansas City only ahead of the Pride on goal differential. These two teams meet next week at CPKC Stadium Saturday night. Darian, who is the upper hand?
I'm going to say Orlando. Not because I'm biased because I played there. That's not it. I do think Orlando has the edge. You're the homer, not me. I think Orlando has the edge defensively. They've been much more consistent. I don't think they've given away nearly as many as Kansas City, specifically on set pieces, which is where KC has shown they're very susceptible. Building out in that modified 3-back Kansas City has, they get exposed a lot in the wide channels. Even when they're dominating games, they still concede goals. I think Orlando's a team as well. What their biggest strength is regardless of what a team gives them, they will take advantage of where space is. Whether you're pressing, space in behind. Oh, you want to sit in a low block? We'll draw you out. We'll shoot from distance. I think they can punish teams in a multitude of ways in that way. Kansas City can too, but to me, it's the defensive edge is what I think Orlando has over them and why they could get a win.
I also give a slight edge to Orlando because I think that they're so well organized and they don't make many mistakes. What Kansas City thrives off is creating chaos and profiting off that chaos. And I don't necessarily think they'll be able to scare this Orlando team. They're very confident in possession. They're very well organized. I think it's going to be incredibly tight and a lot of fun to watch. It being in Kansas City does make me a little bit hesitant.
That teal man behind the goal screaming at you.
Amazing,
he's incredible.
My daughter saw his beard. She was like, "That's incredible."
I mean, it has like glitter.
He's literally teal.
Their support is incredible. They have a fantastic crowd, and that really can help. But I think Orlando's organization and their lack of they don't have a lot of mistakes. So I think that slightest of edges.
Slight edge to Orlando.
What are you saying?
The rain for Kansas City.
What you talking about?
End. if
What
they
do you
have
think?
Are you
to.
predicting Kansas City?
I think Orlando has the upper hand. I see this as a draw, honest to God, because of Kansas City being at home. I know it's unfortunate, but I just don't. Whatever, guys. Okay, moving on. She's steering the ship in a different direction now. Washington against North Carolina Courage. Quick comments here because North Carolina, Ashley Sanchez, she returned home to Audi Field after being traded from Washington Spirit. Now she plays with the Courage, and she got the back-to-back game-winning goals for this side. And for North Carolina, Aaron, it was their first road win of the year.
Massively important for their confidence. You do have to feel for Aubrey Kingsbury, though, because she should have done better on that strike. It's a good hit from Ashley Sanchez, but she should have done better on the strike. So it's disappointing for them to lose on the strength of that. But massively important for North Carolina's confidence.
And Ashley Sanchez, special shout out to her, because to go back to a team that traded you when you weren't set on being traded, you were very comfortable there, you were having a good career, it's tough mentally to go into. It's very emotional. Those are a lot of her best friends. To go and get a goal, the game-winning goal is so key, and then to have 3 shots on target. She was the biggest threat for the Courage going forward, and I love this for them because it's been a really long time coming for them to get a road win.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit for personal vendetta almost to go against your team, and definitely emotional.
I bet you missed me.
Exactly. and her celebration, the solo celebration without her partner in crime, Trinity Rodman, it was bittersweet to see, but happy for Ashley Sanchez and for North Carolina Courage to get the 3 points over Washington. Don't go anywhere. There's plenty more NWSL that we have to recap next when we get back. Welcome back to Attacking Third. NWSL weekend Matchday 15 saw Gotham FC take on Seattle Reign. Ultimately, it ends in a 1-1 draw. But Aaron, when you look at the overall 90 minutes for Gotham, it took until the 47th for Rose Lavelle to get on the board for Gotham. How do you rate the overall 90-minute performance?
It's disappointing to see the points dropped, especially in that fashion. But number one, credit to Seattle because they fought till the end, especially in the second half. I thought they were so much better. Their midfield trio of Jess Fishlock, Quinn, and G were, especially in the second half, I think a lot better, especially G and Quinn. They really got hold of the ball and dominated the proceedings. But it just felt like it was coming for Gotham. The team just looked tired. There's a lot of injuries. They didn't really have any attacking subs off the bench. And as the match stretched on, they came out very strong, but it was hot. It was muggy.
It was a 1 o'clock kick.
1 o'clock kick. It's
terrible.
really difficult.
You're not even
timing
awake
for
yet.
a match. I know. But especially when 9 minutes went up for time added on, everyone in the stadium was like, no. It just felt like it was coming because Seattle was growing in confidence. They still, even though they've had a really poor season, you can see with the players, they have a lot of quality in this team. And it seemed as the match grew that they started to believe more, they got hold of the ball more, and it felt like an equalizer was coming, and eventually it did. Very unfortunate circumstances, but especially given the second half performance for Seattle, I think that they deserved a point.
Yeah, I like that. Ultimately, the equalizer came in the 99th minute, at the very end of the stoppage time, on a set piece, and it ultimately is deemed an own goal by Neely Martin, just a little bit of a flick of a header. But there was a really positive to come out of this for Gotham. Lynn Williams saw the pitch for the first time since May 19th.
Absolutely.
Do you expect more and more minutes to come before she goes to Paris?
Yeah, I think she's on the upward trajectory. She's going to be able to get a little bit more time, and anytime you get a Lynn Williams on to be able to get any minutes, it's a massive benefit. Just her ability to make runs, her work ethic, her positivity as a teammate. It's good to have her out there. So that was a massive plus to see.
Another draw over the weekend. Utah Royals against the Portland Thorns. Scoreless at the end of this match. Portland, Darian, they haven't picked up a win since June 8th. They've struggled. Is this a downward spiral for Portland that we're seeing them in?
I think we're seeing them in a mid-season lull. I don't know if I would say downward spiral. They have a lot of quality. I think because we're only saying this because Rob Yell came in and they just took their level so high from before. But I think they're trying to even out. They're going through an up and down. I'm not worried for Portland. They have a lot of talent. But the focus here should be Utah because maybe the change with Amy Rodriguez, I think this was coming. Maybe players knew, maybe training changed. I don't know. But that was the best game for the Utah Royals that we've seen this season. I'm happy for them. I thought they looked dangerous. We finally saw how they usually build just in their own defensive third. They were building in the middle third, in the final third. They had some really good shots. They hit the post that could have gone in. Different players were taking on different responsibilities. It was fun to watch. They looked like they were forming an identity finally. Anu Manu, my girl, came in. She almost had a goal. She's finally healthy. Shout out Nigeria, Super Falcons. But this is good for them. I think Utah, they need to look at that as almost a win. And on Portland's side, I don't know if they came into this match thinking, well, it's Utah. They've had a really rough season. You kind of take your foot off of the gas pedal and you don't perform to your best abilities. Sometimes it's the mentality, even when you're not training that way, it just comes out when you're on the field. And then training or playing in altitude like that is tough. Utah has a huge advantage in those matches.
Another big positive for Utah, I think, is Ali Sentner. She is an incredible talent.
She looked great.
She looked fantastic carrying the ball through midfield, picking it up deep, running with it, springing teammates. There's something to build on there. There's positives. You can find them here and there, but I think she is a player who you can really build around.
Yeah.
This has to be considered a win for Utah, considering they shut out Portland and Golden Boot contender Sophia Smith at the end of this match.
Sophia Smith looked really frustrated in this match, and I feel for her because I thought she did well. She was in dangerous pockets. She was setting her teammates up for success. I'm struggling with that word today. What the hell? Setting her teammates up for success. But everyone needs to get on that level with her.
I want to give some flowers, too, for Bay FC. They get the 1-0 win over Racing Louisville, and it's Asisato Shwala, her second goal of the season and her first one since opening Matchday. Yeah. It's got to feel good for her.
She needed that. That's huge for her confidence, I think, to carry Bay into the rest of the season, because when you're forward and you're going through such a dry spell, it is tough to have confidence in your game. And we just need to see Princess and Kudanaji get on the scoreboard, and I think they'll be unstoppable in the attack.
The attack for Bay can be dangerous. We didn't see it all, but we saw some of it this past weekend. Thanks for watching. This was Attacking Third, brought to you by CarMax, the way car buying should be. We'll see you Wednesday on YouTube at 11 a.m.